Hey guys! In today's video, I'm going to be going over what I hereby dub the most cunning victory in the history of Tournament Scrabble. Now, if you think about it, that's quite a statement, because there have been millions of Tournament Scrabble games, and Scrabble is a game that has an inherently large element of trying to outsmart and sometimes deceive your opponent. So this game really must have been crazy for me to be calling it the most cunning victory of all time. Indeed it was. And to find this game, we have to go way back 20 years to 2005, when longtime top experts Nathan Benedict and Stefan Rau faced off at a Scrabble tournament held in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Now, an important note before I dive into this game. This was back in 2005, and not all words that are valid today were valid back then. Most importantly, QI was not a valid word at the time. In fact, it was added the next year in 2006. But when this game took place again in 2005, QI was not valid. QAT, however, was. And that's going to be very important starting on the first turn we're going to be looking at right here, with Nathan to play, down 75 points by a score of 305 to 380, following Stefan's bingo of cresting for 62 points. Nathan is holding a rack of AEGILOZ, and from his perspective, there are 2 tiles left in the bag. So that means there are 9 tiles unseen to Nathan, 2 are in the bag, 7 are on Stefan's rack, and where this gets interesting is Nathan has no idea which are the 2 in the bag and which are the 7 on Stefan's rack. Those 9 tiles, though unseen to Nathan, are 2 E's, an H, an N, an O, the Q, and 3 T's, as you guys can see on the right. Now, Nathan is obviously in a very bad position here because he is down 75 points. So Nathan has to assume that things are going to go well for him if he wants to give himself a chance to win this game. And in particular, Nathan has got to hope that Stefan has the Q. Keep in mind, the Q, with QI not being valid, was a really bad tile, even worse than it is today, because it was that much harder to play off. So Nathan's most logical path to victory, he realized, is going to be trying to stick Stefan with the Q. That wouldn't be possible today with many spots available for QI on this board, but back then it was possible. And to that end, Nathan made a very crafty play. He dropped his A with AI both ways for 8 points. The idea with this play was that he blocks Stefan from potentially playing cot and it through the A of outgains. And after this play, if Stefan has the Q, regardless of what else he has, Stefan is going to have nowhere whatsoever to play the Q, with, once again, QI not being valid. However, this play, beyond blocking cot, has some other very deceptive ideas. For instance, one of them is if Nathan draws the N out of the bag, not likely but possible, he's going to be threatening a 78-point play of cognize from the C in cresting, which in some cases might be enough for him to win. Even if Nathan doesn't draw the N, as we'll see, he's got some other tricks up his sleeve as well. Stefan held the Q along with the E, the H, the O, and all 3 T's. And again, he now has nowhere to play his Q, so he makes his best play of Hellet through the L in Surveil, scoring 32 points and going up by 99, 412 to 313. Hellet is theoretically a 100% win for Stefan. However, theoretically and practically, as we know all too well in Scrabble, are 2 very, very different things. Nathan drew an E out of the bag, so he doesn't have cognize, but he has a very clever idea here. He knows that Stefan is not going to be going out because he can't play his Q. And he also knows that he's down 99 points, so he's going to need a massive number of points. And to do that, he's going to have to maximize the value of his 10-point Z as much as he can. It's worth mentioning that in addition to QI not being valid, ZA was also not valid at the time of this game, so playing Z over here for 47 points was out of the question for Nathan. I actually don't believe that would have been enough for him to win anyway, even if it were valid. Instead, Nathan had a better idea. He played L for 2 points. And the idea is that while he only scores 2, he has a massive threat. Namely, if Stefan doesn't do something about it, Nathan is going to follow this up with G's for 75 points, hooking Ale on his next turn. So how did Stefan respond? Well, Stefan only has one play that blocks Nathan's threat of G's for 75, Alt for 3, and that's exactly what he does. This is a perfectly reasonable play for Stefan, and he is still completely in a winning position here, theoretically speaking. Nathan here makes a fairly odd-looking play, at least at first. He more or less stalls playing of for 7 points. He could just play zit for 36, but again, this is going to fall well short. Being down 100 points here, he's going to need a huge number, probably at least 70 if not more for his z. Zit simply wasn't going to cut it, and Nathan knew it, so instead he devised another very crafty plan, playing of for 7 points. What was he up to? Well, we'll just have to wait and see. Stefan here responded with ut for 6 points, and at this point, Stefan is still, once again, theoretically speaking, in a completely won position. And this is where things get absolutely uncanny. In this position, Nathan played ed and eb, EB, for 7 points. Now, you're probably screaming at your screen, eb is not a word, it needs 2 B's. And you're right. EB is not a word, and it was never a word. It's not like this was valid back in 2005 and isn't now. It was just simply never a word. So here, Nathan played a phony 2. Okay, that's a little bit odd, right? I mean, the last thing you want to do when you're down 99 points is simply give away a turn. So, very strange play from Nathan, and Stefan, of course, promptly challenges this off the board, and still unable to play his cue, he plays in for 6 points, getting the most he can out of his N, and now increasing his lead to 105 points. And now, and only now, Nathan strikes. And he strikes with a 2-point play. That 2-point play is it to the T in alt. Okay, so what's the idea? Well, now, Stefan has to pass, because all he has is a Q, and it's still unplayable as it has been this whole time. After Stefan passes, now, Nathan goes out with G's and zit for a whopping 84 points. And guess what? That brings Nathan to 408. He gets another 20 points from Stefan's unplayed Q. Nathan wins by 1. 428 to 427. What? How did that just happen? And why did Nathan phony? Let's try to understand this absolute chaos that just unfolded here, guys. How did Nathan phony in this position lose his turn and then go on to win by 1? Why would Nathan waste a turn here? Why wouldn't he just go about his plan immediately? Why, if Nathan's plan was to play it and then G's, did he not just play it immediately? Well, the problem is if Nathan plays it immediately, Stefan can actually block, because he still has an N at this point. So he can just play nit for 9 points, and now the top right triple word score is completely obstructed, Nathan's plan is foiled, and now he is completely lost. So Nathan needed to get Stefan to play off his N before he put his master plan of playing it for 2 into action. So now you might be thinking, all right, well, why does Nathan need to do this craziness and phony? Well, the key point to keep in mind here, guys, is that Nathan needs all 5 of his tiles to put his plan into action. He needs his I to play it, and then he needs both E's, his G, and his Z to play G's. So he can't just play a tile here, or else he can't get his massive setup, he can't score enough, and he just loses. So Nathan cannot play a tile. But then you might be thinking, if Nathan wants Stefan to simply take another turn using his N, why can't Nathan just pass? Well, the problem is Nathan can't pass because Stefan will simply pass back. In Scrabble, if there are 6 consecutive passes, then either player has the right to declare the game over, both players subtract the total point value they have on their racks, and the game ends. So obviously, Stefan being up 99 points would be very happy to declare a 6 pass, and he would go on to win the game easily. So Nathan can't simply pass because Stefan will just see what he's doing and pass back. So instead, Nathan needs to make his plan a little bit less obvious. And that's when he comes up with this absolutely ridiculous, but also ingenious idea of playing a phony 2. It's worth mentioning that Nathan also played this upside down without turning the board towards him. The idea there was to try to get Stefan to think Nathan just accidentally messed up and thought he was playing B, B-E, instead of the phony EB, EB. And that way, Stefan wouldn't be so suspicious. If Nathan passes, that's extremely suspicious. And like I said, Stefan will just realize, hey, I'm up 99 points. I can just pass back. This could suggest a simply innocent mistake, and Stefan might not realize what Nathan is up to. So that's exactly what happened. Stefan noticed this and was like, all right, I guess Nathan just screwed up and played a phony 2, challenged it off the board, and went about his business playing off his N for 6 points. And then Nathan pounced, like I showed before, with it for 2 followed by G's, winning the game by 1 because now, with his N gone, Stefan was no longer able to block. So what should Stefan have done instead after ebb? Well, the most straightforward thing for Stefan to do would be to challenge this off the board, pass back, and put the ball back in Nathan's court. In fact, if Stefan were to challenge this off, his only winning play would be to pass back. Another option, though, would be for Stefan to actually leave this on the board intentionally and then drop his N, because at that point it would be totally safe. Nathan would not have that massive threat of it followed by G's, because now Nathan would only have 1 E. So Stefan has 2 paths to victory after Nathan's phony of ebb. He can either challenge it off and pass back and force Nathan to try something else, or he can leave it on the board. The only thing he cannot do is challenge it off and play his N. And unfortunately for Stefan, fortunately for Nathan, that's exactly what Stefan did. He completely fell for Nathan's trap here. And I cannot think of a situation, guys, where I've ever seen something like this take place. I've seen situations at the beginning of the game where someone plays a silly enough and short phony because they want their opponent to challenge it off and then give them a floater to bingo through. I can't remember any other situation where I've seen someone intentionally play a phony 2 in an endgame, hoping their opponent would challenge it off and then make a play. Like, that is just utterly ridiculous, and honestly, utterly creative and genius if you're Nathan. Like, how do you come up with that and think of this way to steal a game, let alone with the added aspect that Nathan did this all with the board upside down? Part of the reason this was plausible was because, like I said, Nathan made this play upside down, which gave the possible explanation that, all right, he was viewing it backwards and he thought he was playing B. If Nathan turned the board and played this, Stefan would have probably been a lot more suspicious and maybe sniffed out what he was up to. So how Nathan conjured up this plan and put it into action so perfectly while looking at the board upside down while it was still facing Stefan is just utterly ridiculous and honestly crazy, crazy impressive, if you ask me. Now, you might say, all right, is that a little bit slimy or unethical? Not at all, in my book. You know, Nathan didn't say anything here, and it's ultimately his opponent's responsibility to, you know, figure out what he was up to here. There's nothing unethical about playing a phony 2. In 99.99% of cases, you're just hurting yourself, right? And it's your opponent's responsibility to realize here that you happen to be in that 0.01%, and in this particular case, Stefan failed to do that, and it cost him the game, and Nathan won a very, very crafty and unusual endgame here. And like I said, I feel it's totally reasonable and not unethical, and yeah, I'm calling it the most cunning victory in the history of Scrabble. Once again, after his outplay of G's, Nathan winning this game by 1, 428 to 427. Absolutely wild stuff. So that is it for this one, guys. I really hope you all enjoyed this video and maybe got a little bit more of a flavor for just how psychological a game Scrabble can really be at the top level. I think it's a super underrated and fun aspect of the game. In any case, I really appreciate you all supporting my channel and watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like or comment and subscribe if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you again for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all soon for the next video. Bye-bye.